Our young people, it's our future. I work downstairs in the unemployment office, and they come in there, they get their unemployment insurance, they come in there for their meetings, the pants is hanging down. The first thing I say to them is, good morning, could you please put your pants up? That's the first thing I say. And I say it nicely, but I give them a look. Okay? The body language speaks for me. And he's like, oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. Some of them, ma'am, I'm sorry. Some of them, they don't care. They don't care. They're not going to pull them up. They're just not. It's just comfortable for your drawers to be showing. And it's crazy. It's so bad. You could never get a job going in a place like this.
Yeah, I know. So, I mean, I don't get it. But, I mean, basically it's like, you know, even if you're truly brilliant, but you have to be smart about how you present yourself. Even if you really are really good, you're smart.
And I still say it's like a time and a place.
Right.
You're hanging out with your boys on Saturday afternoon, and that's what y'all want to do, fine. But you don't go into a place of business, any place of business like that.
Exactly.
What's wrong with this picture?
So, I mean, on the surface it's fine. There's nothing wrong.
No.
But let me, so there's some, this was like an oversight from the candidate where it's like the school date is not defined. You know, it says like 110 to present. So what is this, like a PhD or something?
Nothing. Yeah, right?
The PhD
That you're
is
still
like
in
5
school?
years, right?
That you're still in school?
I don't know. I mean, it raises more questions than it answers things, right?
Right.
So the question is like you need to be like really careful about what you say, because people are going to judge you based on what you say because it's your words, you know. So you have to be like really careful. You got to think through like everything, and the idea is you need to quell any kind of doubt the employer has in
Even
you.
the first one, 9/11 to 6/12. So how are you going to be at that school till 6/12, and now you're at this school from 110 to the present? Something's wrong with that picture.
So the summary so far is that you need to use social media responsibly. You know, you need to be really careful about what you say because people take whatever you say really seriously, and you can't be clumsy about it. You know, you have to be. I mean, do your homework.
Very,
put your best foot forward. You know? Use a one-page resume format. Behave appropriately at all times. You know, stay ahead of the curve and do more than what's expected, not less. So, what does a good resume look like? So, a good resume, I mean, you can't see it, but I'll break it down into a few components. And again, these are all things that you can transfer onto when you create your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile, etc. So, the most important thing is the headline. So, the headline, you needs to have your name. It needs to state the role that you played. It needs to mention, you know, your work authorization status because we're living in a globalized world. You know, even if you have like an ethnic name, it's possible that, see, the idea is you want to preempt any kind of question an employer has, and you definitely want to land in that maybe cabinet, you know. You want to land in the maybe cabinet, you want to tell them I'm either a green card, I'm a US citizen, say that, you know, say that with pride. And because that's going to immediately separate you from somebody that's either a student or a tourist or, you know, or somebody else, you know. You also want to mention the LinkedIn profile because, like I said, that's truly invaluable. You also want to mention your cell number. Now, make sure when you're in the job search process, you have a cell number that works. Your phone is on. It's always charged, you know, and that whenever you get a call, you kind of take it in a place that is not a nightclub, you know, or something like that. Because sometimes I've noticed when I myself, you know, I'm working with prospective, you know, recruits, you know, students, people just getting out of school, that they'll have an interview, but they're in the cafeteria. I'm like, excuse me, really? So, you know, you got to watch out for things like that. Even if you are, let's say, in a very noisy place, step away and try and go to like a place that's less noisy. Make sure that the place you're in has a good cell reception. so that it doesn't get choppy, because you want to make it as easy and nice for the employer as possible. Because you're trying to get into that maybe, because even after you're in the maybe, the interview process still continues based on their impression as to how they feel about you, based on their when they spoke to you on the phone, when they met with you in person, and things like that. And I'll cover that in a couple of minutes. Another thing is you definitely want to talk about highlights. Now, like I said, the recruiter spends literally 5 seconds on your resume, so you want to make the impact really fast. And the best way to do that is to have like a really succinct, to the point title that says as much as you can, but says it nicely without being too crazy. And the highlights are something that you want to talk about, like you want to use action words like manage, design, and rollout of numerous online properties, or successfully launched prospect email channel for city, or whatever the case is. I mean, I'm just reading off my resume, but in your resume it'll look something like this. Successfully managed a team of 10 people that reported directly to me, or had a dotted line, or helped to effectively do the distribution of something. Whatever the case is, you got to figure out the best, most powerful way of what you do, but structure it in a way that makes you sound like a manager, that makes you sound like a thinker, like a strategist. There's all of you, I'm sure that all the jobs that you've done, I'm sure there's some part of it that requires thinking, requires reasoning, requires logic, requires problem solving, requires interaction with people, requires you to be creative. It could be even something that you created a new filing system, and because of that new filing system, you save the company 2 hours every day. Now, if you convert that to dollars, that could be like hundreds of thousands, it could be even millions. But you need to think about every single thing like that, because employers like to know that you're a problem solver. They like to know that you're thinking like a problem solver. So you kind of have to present yourself, in that fashion. And it also helps to mention technical skills. So if you have computer skills, if you have design skills, if you know certain things like Facebook or Photoshop or Dreamweaver or anything like that, anything that's technical, even if it's not directly related to the job, still mention it, because that's like an added thing, that's an added layer for the employer to consider you. Because you may not know this, but let's say you're going in for a role, but because you have several technical expertise, they might choose you over somebody else because you have this added technical expertise, which could help them on something else. You don't know that because you're on the out. You don't know how they're thinking, but you got to really put up the most, the most prepared front possible on your resume, as well as, like I said, this translates directly to your LinkedIn, your Facebook profile, and other relevant social media. And you always want to list achievements as action points, on your resume. So you want to have, a resume that says the word achievements, and under that you want to have bullet points of this is what you achieved, whether it was achieved something to do with cost saving, time saving, revenue generation, anything that is something positive. No matter how small you think it is, but you got to spin it like it's positive, because they value that. And you also want to mention the company name and location, like where this was. In this case, I've used NY because it was New York, because I worked in several locations, but in your case, you might want to say the town name as well, whether it was Farmingdale, Uniondale, Hempstead, Glen Cove, wherever it was. You kind of want to mention that. You also want to mention your designation, and you got to say this like, as briefly to the point as possible. And you also want to mention the time spent, So the date when you started, the month and the year. It doesn't have to be the date. You can just keep it as month and year. And either you can say to present, or, again the month and year that you were there for. And briefly list, internships and education. And the idea is that if you tell everything about yourself on the resume, then what's left to say when you meet them? You know, gotta leave a little bit. Yeah, sure.
If you have a one page, how could you list all that stuff there on one page?
So as far as your education goes, that's something that you would list at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then your work experience, you would kind of list that, you know,
Most
like
current.
briefly above that.
Most current would it be? Or
Correct. So the way that you do it is that your most current is the first, and then work backwards from there. Because sometimes I've seen on resumes that somebody will list the last, the first, and I'm like, what? Is this Back to the Future or something? Like,
No,
what's going on?
What you're doing
So,
last, down.
from most recent. So you gotta work backwards from the most recent. And the idea is to even to your point, even if you have 20 years experience, but kind of summarize it succinctly with that action point, you know, consistently being delivering top quality work for, let's say, this lab for 15 years or 7 years or whatever, you know, and say it in a nice, powerful way. You were here in this company, this was your role there, this was the period that there, and if you had a promotion, then you say that, promoted to this role from this time till this time, got another promotion, successfully problem solved this situation, managed this crisis, helped in speaking with customers and ensuring customer delight, things like that. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you lie or you misrepresent or anything like that, but you have to present yourself in the best possible way. Like I said before, you have to blow your own trumpet, because if you don't, nobody else will. And believe me, other people are. So I mean, I definitely want you guys to really, really shine. And so what does a good cover letter look like? And again, these are things that you can use in your social media as well, because elements of this you'll see in that introductory paragraph on LinkedIn, for example, or even the about part on your Facebook. So like to a recruiter. So whenever you reply to a job post, what I've learned is that employers value enthusiasm. It may seem silly or superficial, but they like that you're excited to work for them. They like that you're happy to work for them and you've chosen to work for them, or to be in consideration to work for them. So they like that. So definitely mention that when you're replying to them. I'm very interested and excited about pursuing this role in your company, which I found on LinkedIn or Career Builder or wherever you found it. It's because it aligns perfectly with my recent experience of this place, where I was this, where I did this. So just in that first sentence, you mentioned that you're very excited about the role. You mentioned why you're the best choice for the role. You mentioned your experience that relates to the role, and you also say that you can hit the ground running, you're a performer and things like that. So the idea, now I'm not suggesting that your sentence needs to be a paragraph long, but what I am suggesting is to choose your words carefully so that you say the most in the most to the point way possible, while being interesting and saying all the things that that you want to hit. You want to be clear in your thinking, in your articulation. You want to be excited, enthusiastic, etc. And then of course, so that's the first paragraph. The second paragraph is usually my background encompasses this. I will essentially be hitting the ground running since I'm a quick study. I can deliver. I'm a seasoned professional. I can deliver results consistently. And then the last is, I look forward to exploring next steps. Sincerely, your name and your key contact information.
That's your actual letter?
Yeah. Thank you. So, I mean, this just, yeah.
So it's basically the same thing what I just said.
So the email strategy this is another component. Pick one email which is dedicated to your job search. Create an email signature with all your key contacts in that, because when you create the email signature, that by default comes when you're composing any email. So you don't have to do that in addition to responding. That comes on its own. So you spend the time to create that email signature once, and then you have it for all time. Make sure that the email name appears formal and something that kind of makes sense based on your job search. So if you want to do something like jcarry@hotmail.com, that's fine. So I'll show you a couple of names. You tell me which ones you think are fine or which ones you don't think are fine.
Funky pie.
Job seek is too generic.
Womanizer, no.
Oh my God. Robert, the virgin. Yes, was
That
man.
one's okay.
Lydia Johnson, that's good.
Dr. Dre.
Nah. No.
No, but that's the only one Dr. Dre. So
No.
You're right.
Hip hop
Oh,
gangsta.
yeah, great,
Hip hop
great.
gangsta. No go.
That's crazy.
I've seen people with email addresses like that applying for looking for jobs.
So so for those
Yeah.
in the back,
These are
right,
regular ones for
Hip-hop
the jobs.
gangsta.
right.
Yeah.
So the idea is that
So always have more than one then, huh?
right. So I'll read out the names for, or actually, can you? Yeah, one of you. Yeah, can I ask you to volunteer to read the names out? For
Joe
those that
Carey
haven't-
at hotmail.com, jobseeker@gmail.com, funkypothead@outlook.com, womanizer xx@aol.com, Roberto J2727@yahoo.com, Lydia Johnson @outlook.com, Dr. Dre @email.com. What email? And hiphopgangsta@gmail.com. So the
Thank you.
email is a mistake. It should say Gmail, I assume, but it's wrong all the way around. But
Right.
Right. So the idea is that whatever email you select, even though it's just an email and the email is one that you're using to send the resume in, that email is
Says
also
something.
looked at
It says
by
something.
your,
Sure.
the recruiter, by your hiring manager. So you want to make sure it's not. If you think it's funky and cool, that's great. But it's possible that the hiring manager may disagree with you.
Yeah.
You know, so you want to, again, like she said, very rightly so, you got to be conservative. You got to make sure that whatever you say meets the minimum requirement and conforms with what is considered as serious and professional. And again, the idea is you want to reach in that maybe pile. You definitely do not want to go to the not pile. You
to
know?
the no.
So that's the idea over there. So how do you ace the interview? You know, using either Skype or your phone or in person. So the way that you ace the interview is, I mean, some of this may appear as common sense, but I'll say it in any case. Do your homework. So that's really important that you do your homework. Research the company's website. You're going for an interview with the company, you definitely want to research that company's website, find out who they are, find out what they do, find out why you want to work there, find out if they have any news, if they won an award, if they, got a letter of recommendation from, I don't know, the Chancellor of Germany, I don't know. So whatever the case is, find out. Look at any recent news, and it's okay to cyber stalk them. And this is when you should cyber stalk them, in the sense that you need to look at their website, you need to look at their social media, you need to look at their blog, you need to look at their Facebook, just to see what they're doing, what they're saying. Because that will also give you a sense of their personality. It will give you a sense of their tone, their approach to things. Because that will also give it any information that you can get about the company is more intel for you to showcase when you speak to them or meet them, because then they're going to know that you know, and when they know that you know, they kind of feel that you're already part of the team, and that's what you want, because then that brings you one step closer to the next round and then the offer. You want to anticipate their questions and create your answers in advance. You got to set aside your clothes in advance along with 2 copies of your resume. You don't want to be scrambling at the last moment. Have a good night's sleep the night before, be enthusiastic and positive, and smile. And the part 2 is that people will ask you in the interview, do you have any questions for me? That while it happens right at the very end, that's very important because they are actually asking for you to ask them questions, which tells them if you've been paying attention, if you've been thinking, if you've been processing everything that they've been saying. So even though that's at the very end, that's actually your time to shine. So the things that you should ask them are, depending on how much time they have, is this a replacement position or an additional one? So that tells you whether they're growing or there was a problem with the last guy. How can I be successful here? It tells them that you're actively thinking as to how you can integrate fast and start performing.
Help them.
Yep. Or what are the growth opportunities? What's the work culture here like? What are your expectations for me in the first 90 days? Again, that tells them that you're actively thinking as to, what, I'm coming here because I want to do. I want to perform. And this is very important. Based on our discussion, do you have any questions or concerns I can address? That, even if you don't have time for any of these questions, that is a question that you must ask. Because that is you're gonna put them on the spot. You're gonna ask them, okay, so, do you have any questions or concerns? They may say something, or they'll say, what, I think I'll have you meet like another person because there'll be another round or whatever. So when they say that, you know that the interview has gone well. And then also what are the next steps? So, do you have any questions?
So I wanted to ask a question
Sure.
about the email.
Sure.
When I had hotmail.com, everybody's telling me to go to Gmail. But I had Hotmail for so long that even though I create the Gmail, I didn't forget what Gmail. So is it wrong to have the Hotmail?
No, there's nothing wrong with having an Hotmail account. The reason possibly why people are saying that you should have a Gmail is because Gmail gives you access to many things at once. Gmail gives you access to Google Talk, it gives you access to Google Hangout, it gives you access to Google Plus, it gives you access to YouTube, it gives you access to Blogger and Blogspot. So all these things are all tied into that one email address. And it also gives you access to Google Talk. So, in a way it kind of makes sense if you have a Gmail because it gives you a lot more. It gives you access to Google Docs. Google Docs is the free version of Office online that's completely free. It's an alternative to Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, all completely free. And you get access to all of that with just that single Gmail account. So from that standpoint, it makes sense to have a Gmail if you see a value in using any one of these. But if it's just for email and email alone, you can stick with Hotmail. That's not a problem. Also, another thing is that another benefit of using Gmail is that if you have an Android phone, all your contacts are also linked to your Gmail. So that means when you change phones, your contacts get updated immediately without you doing anything. So again, that's another benefit.
I have a live interview. I just freeze up. I get all nervous. My heart beating. I feel like I can't remember anything. I just totally fall apart. I just really bad at face-to-face interviews.
I would say, like I said in the deck, sleep fairly early or not later than you usually sleep on a regular day. So if you sleep at 10 o'clock, sleep at 10 o'clock. Definitely don't sleep at 12 o'clock or 1 a.m. the night before. You want to be well rested, because if you're well rested, you're not going to be anxious. Your mind is not going to be fleeting and racing as to, oh my God, do I remember everything?
It's anticipating everything, before you say it.
Right.
Then I'm, mixed up. And
I would say the best thing.
Disaster.
Yeah, I would say just practice with someone. Practice. It can be a little bit kind of sort of uncomfortable even practicing with someone, because it's kind of like you want to just do it when you're asked. But if you practice, that it makes those words flow easy and it becomes second nature. Those practiced words become your words, so that when you say it, it'll sound like your words and not rehearsed. Any other questions?
Can you print that out? I would like that whole presentation.
Right. So, did you sign the sign-in sheet?
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll be getting an actual link to the video of this.
Okay.
So yeah, you can actually see it and review it.
Okay. I like that. That's very
Thank you.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess if there are no other questions, then I think. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a card?
Yeah, it's actually on the table.
This one right here? Okay.
Yeah, actually you could actually like take one and pass on.
I don't know if I saw your name on that card.
And yeah, you can do the same with that. You can take one and pass on.
Okay.